guys, welcome to the Jeffrey Kitchen. We're here today and we're here to talk about pie. Alright, we're going to talk about different parts of the circle and we're going to talk about this magic ratio called pi. And I figured the best way to do that is by making a pie. Okay, so we're going to go through some more specifics about the parts of the circle, but before we get going, I'm going to go ahead and just make the pie. Here's that pie I just took out of the oven, okay? And I know I use my little baby oven. I like to use it when it's hot outside so it doesn't heat up the house. All right, so here's my pie, and you guys notice the pie is in the shape of a circle, right? The pie is in the shape of a circle. And one measurement that's the easiest to get on most circles is the diameter, okay? The diameter is the distance that goes all the way across the circle. All right, so we go all the way across the circle, and I've got my diameter, right? Now, on this pie, it happens, we'll measure it here in a second, okay? Now, another number, another dimension that's really important on a circle is the radius, right? The distance from the edge of the circle to the center of the circle. And when you think about it, like when you cut a pie, if you're going to cut a slice of pie, and here's a slice of that pie, right? When I cut that slice of pie, I'm going from the center to the edge. So that distance is going to be my radius. The side length of each piece of pie is the radius of my circle, right? So my radius is the distance from the center to the edge. Now, I want you guys to think about that relationship, because if I go all the way across the circle, right, versus going from the center to the edge, right, then I think you guys could understand why the diameter is equal to 2 times the radius, right? Because if I have one piece of pie goes to the middle and then another piece of pie goes to the edge, right? Or the radius is equal to the diameter divided by 2. And I think you guys can see how the orange line here is kind of divided in half by the green line, right? All right, some other things I want to look at here on this pie, right? I want you to understand what is the circumference. All right, the circumference is the distance around the circle. So in many ways, it's kind of like the perimeter of the circle. It's the distance to go all the way around. When I was going around mashing it down with the fork, I was going around the circumference. And there's this magic relationship, okay, that we use to understand lots of things about circles called pi, okay? And what it is we take the diameter, the distance that goes across the circle, right? The diameter. And then we take the circumference, the distance around the circle, and we divide them. Pi is equal to the circumference divided by the diameter, right? When I divide the circumference by the diameter, I get this cool ratio, this cool number, pi. Pi is equal to the circumference divided by the diameter, right? And pi is another one of those irrational numbers like we talked about a couple of weeks ago with the square root of 2. They're numbers that keep going and going and going and going and going forever. They never actually settle out into a nice clear decimal, right? Now, generally, we like to use the number 3.14, right? Because it's a nice simplified decimal form. If you want a nice simple fraction, 22 over 7 also works very well if you're going to use it in fractional notation. 22 over 7. I mean, it's really 3.14159265359. Keeps going, going, going. And for a lot of everyday circumstances, guys, the number 3 works pretty good, right? Because it's just barely over a tenth off of 3. So if, when you think about it, 3 is a pretty accurate number. All right. So let's find the dimensions here on my pie. So I look at my diameter, which is the distance that goes across the pie, right? And the diameter here is 8 inches. You guys see that? It starts from one side going across to the other. I've got an 8-inch diameter pan here. All right, so the distance going from one side to the other side is 8 inches. Now, what's my radius, right? Well, what's half of 8? Half of 8 is 4, because remember, our radius is 1/2 the diameter, or 2 times my radius is equal to my diameter. So 2 times 4 is 8. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So each slice of pie is going to be about 4 inches long, right? Now, what's my circumference here? My circumference is going to be equal to, right? It's going to be equal to the pi times the diameter, or 2 times the radius times pi, right? So here, since my diameter is 8, or 4 times 2 is 8, right? My circumference is going to be 8 pi, right? And then we get to look and see, how accurate do I want these numbers to come out? How precise do we want these numbers to come out? And since I say circumference is equal to 8 times pi, I want to use 3.14 for pi. If I replace that, I can go ahead and say, look, it is 25.12 inches. Going around my pan is 25.12 inches. Now, if I just use 3, I could have come out with something pretty close. It would come out with 24, right? So it would have been not quite as precise. So 3.14 gives me 25.12 inches for the circumference of this pie. Now, I want to talk real quick about area. Okay? Area, I want you to think about when I had to roll out the top, right? We rolled out the top and we laid it over the top. When we're talking about area, we're going to be talking about square units, right? So we're talking about the area, which is a two-dimensional shape, right? And we need square units when we're looking at that. So to get the area of a circle, I'm going to use the formula pi r squared, right? And remember, what was my radius? My radius was the distance from the edge of the circle to the center of the circle, right? So it's that same piece, right? It's half of my diameter, and it's that same piece that would be like along the side of my piece of pie, right? Because that's from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle. Okay? So I'm going to take my radius, which here was 4, right? And I'm going to square my radius. So when I square something, I'm multiplying it by itself. So 4 times 4, right? And then I've got pi. So it's going to be 4 times pi, which I could write out as 16 pi. Okay, that's the most precise way to write it because pi just means pi and it just keeps going on forever, right? Now, if I wanted to go ahead and use 3.14 for pi, that's about 50.3 square inches, right? So the top of my pie is about 50.3 square inches. All right, thank you guys. Hope you guys had fun and you learned a little bit more about circles. You guys take care until we meet again, all right?